Billy Reeves here. Welcome to this very special edition of the Kscope podcast, in which we concentrate on the brand new album from Envy of None. Alex Lifeson, Andy Curran, Maiah Wynne and Alf Annabellini. We'll hear an exclusive interview with singer and lyricist Maiah Wynne, and we'll also hear from Alex Lifeson too. Now first we have to look at the title. Stygian Waves is an unusual name for a record, to say the least. Before we hear Maiah Wynne's take on it and her influences for singing and writing the lyrics for the title track, here's Alex Lifeson to give us a clue as to what it all means.
Yeah, this came from, originally came from David Steinberg. He made the suggestion for the title, the name of the band, and Envy of None. And it comes from Ovid. I think it was an essay that Ovid had written. And there's a reference to the Stygian Waves, which are the turbulent waters at the gates of hell on the river Styx. And we like to think that there's a way to navigate those waters to calmer waters, we hope. And it really kind of reflects on what's happening in the world, and maybe in a more micro sense, or macro sense, micro sense. We're all going through stuff all the time, and we're all trying to find peace, and we're all trying to find the calmness. And I think it was quite important for us to finish the album with that kind of thought in mind, and something that's very positive. Out of the chaos that song is all about.
I didn't really have a lot of influences for Stygian Waves. When we're working on music, when I'm working on music, I try to tune everything else out, because whether you intentionally do it or not, it's so easy to get unintentional references in your music where you're just being inundated by other melodies, other sounds, other songs, and I don't want any of that. I just want it to come from inside. I want to be influenced by the music and creating something that feels authentic to that music. Although the title track, I did feel like I was influenced by my trip to India and the Ladakhi singers that I connected with, just to try to push my vocals in new ways, which was really amazing. And I also was really influenced by the blue alien from the movie The Fifth Element. She does this amazing operatic, futuristic musical number, and I just wanted to be her in this song. Something about it reminded me of that movie and that scene, and I was like, okay, I want to emulate this blue alien, and I'm going to try my best to do that. So, yeah.
Envy of None, and the title track of Stygian Waves. Now, as you probably know, dear listener, this all started out as a distance project, but has since morphed into a proper band. Here's Maiah Wynne's take on how it's all grown.
You know, it's really interesting because on the first record, we started out as strangers. When we first started working together, I didn't really know Andy, I didn't really know Alf, and I didn't know Alex was even going to be a part of the project at that point. So it really was a slow burn for us getting to know each other, but the creative spark was always there, and that excitement to work together was always there. Everything really clicked naturally and started to flow from the beginning. But I do feel like we've become close over the last few years, and on this second record, I do feel like it's made a difference to the music that we've made. You know, most bands, they start out as friends and then they start playing music together, and we did the opposite. We were strangers and then we became friends throughout the process of making music. And now that we're closer, we've developed, we've grown, we've had this growth as a group, and we feel like a team now. We feel like a family. I love these guys, and I feel like we really are a unit now, and I think that what makes us feel like a band rather than just a project. I also feel like a lot of it has to do with our musical growth. We have 2 records of work that we are really proud of, and I think that also adds to that feeling of us being more than just a project. Like, this is a band now. Throughout the last 8 years that we've been working together, I've gotten certified in Pro Tools, I've done classes through Women's Audio Mission, I've learned Ableton, I've gotten a certification from Berklee online. I did all of these things because it just opened this door, and I wanted to keep learning and keep exploring and keep trying new genres. It really scratched an itch that I always had to like make heavier, darker, grungier music. Because I always wanted to be in a rock band growing up, especially when I went through my rock band phase when I was playing Guitar Hero all the time as a tween, and like getting to do this, I love music. So I would love to keep exploring every genre possible. I know that with Envy of None, we have really kept the door open. With every song that we've worked on, nothing's off the table. We push ourselves with each song to try something new, to keep pushing ourselves in different ways musically. And, you know, we've been really lucky in that most of the time we really don't have any conflict or disagreements about the music. We're all working really hard together as a team to create the best music that we can. But we also kind of have our own corners that we are focused on. So most of the time we're just focused on our piece that we're developing, and then we put them together at the end, and it's like, wow, this is great. Those guys are doing their jobs super well, and I can just focus on vocals, lyrics, vocal melodies, harmonies, and these pieces, and know that they've got everything else covered. Of course, there's still some overlap, and that's honestly where we've had some moments where we're trying to work through differences or creative differences, but we've really figured out a way to do that because we respect each other so much, and we've really come to trust each other in this creative process. So if Andy has an idea for a lyric or a hook in the chorus or that I'm not quite seeing, I've come to trust that he is going to come up with a good idea and to try it out before I dismiss it. And a lot of the time I'm like, actually, this is great. This is a great idea. I'm glad I tried this out. And even if I didn't see the vision at the beginning, and vice versa, we've had the same experience, but opposite, you know, and where I've got an idea and they trust me enough to try it and they love it. And whether it's an arrangement idea or an instrumental idea that I'm sending, where it's like I'm stepping a little out of my usual bubble, but we have so much trust and respect for each other that we can all do that with each other, and we can tell each other if we're like, I don't know, there's something a little bit off about this part, let's fix it, and then we work together to do that. And I just love that about us as a group.
Story, the most recent single. Now check this out, this is interesting, from the Toronto listening party. Alex has spoken about how his style is developing with Envy of None. Here he talks about how he constructed the solo for Under the Stars.
You know, throughout my history, I've always loved soloing, and more recently I've still kind of stayed away from it because I was just afraid that it's too showy. But I came to realize that when I construct a solo, it's not to prove something of my skill. It's in service of the song, and I want the solo to reflect the emotion of the song and, you know, what the song is saying musically as well as lyrically. We left this space for a solo, and I wasn't really sure if I really wanted to do it, but when it came down to it and the song started building and it's the last thing I recorded, there was a place for it, and I looked forward to building it. And I always build my solos in steps. I come to realize that it's a gradual ascending step for me, so that there's a peak, and that's the way I do it. With this particular solo, I really wanted to do it a little differently, so I didn't use a pick. I just played with my fingers, rolled off the tone volume on the guitar, so it has that more nasally kind of tone to it. And then the solo builds to that little gap, and then Maiah re-enters with her vocal, and then it comes back in with that little lick that I stole from David Gilmour. Thank you, David. And it just creates so much impact and emotional, payment.
Under the Stars. Now, Maiah Wynne is hitting some career goals with this album, being interviewed by Rolling Stone, being on MTV and so forth. Maiah is visibly the front person of this act, the lyricist, the singer. So perhaps let's finish with some advice from Maiah for women in the music industry.
The first piece of advice that I have is to find your community. Find the people that are going to lift you up, your friends, your circle, the creative circle that you find. Lift each other up, be positive, support each other, have each other's backs, because the reality of the industry now is so much harder than it ever has been, especially for women. There are so many impossible standards that you're going to feel like you can't live up to, and it's too hard, and people are always unhappy because that's the nature of the internet, and people's unfiltered opinions being thrown at you from every direction all the time, and it gets really hard. It really does. And the best thing you can do to combat that is have your community and surround each other and really lift each other up through all of that so you can filter out everything else. My next piece of advice is to know your worth, know that you deserve respect, and to advocate for what you need in every situation. Unfortunately, it's the Wild West out there in this industry. Some people are incredible and other people do not have your best interest at heart. So knowing where your lines are, where your boundaries are, and advocating for yourself in every situation is really important. And my last piece of advice is put yourself first when it comes to your art. Everybody's going to have opinions, and the most important thing at the end of the day is that you are making something that fulfills you and makes you happy, because you're the only person that's going to live with your music for the rest of your life. It's so much easier to live with something that didn't come out perfectly if you know that you were creating what you wanted to create than if you were creating something that somebody else told you to make and it was never your vision to begin with. You will feel so much more fulfilled at the end of the day following your own heart and knowing that this is your art. So please don't ever feel like you have to sacrifice your identity and your vision in what you create.
My thanks to Maiah Wynne and Alex Lifeson for their voices on the Kscope podcast. Stygian Waves by Envy of None is out now. Let's finish with this. That was then.